right.
I gave you all teaching. It's called retired.
Yes,
Retired.
Carries, just like the
From
street.
Northeast Middle.
Yeah.
I'm Miss Reynolds. No, I had to get some little clues going.
I just finished which year? I touched them up. I
So
know
now
she
what?
knew what was in the grocery store.
No, I have to go to my third year.
Okay.
University of Baltimore.
That's right, that's right.
It's the only place
Now
to
that
go.
you're not
Yeah.
there anymore.
Yeah, great. Isn't Kurt Smoke's former campaign manager at the professor?
Larry Gibson, he teaches at University of Maryland.
Oh, University of Maryland.
My alma mater. The other law school.
Tunnel.
And girl.
Now what is it? The other law school?
It's University of Maryland and University of
This one is the
Baltimore.
one I got operated on.
Okay.
University of Maryland is connected to the whole University of Maryland system, the medical school, the dental
Okay.
school,
I'm not letting
in
them
that
take this
area.
way.
Oh, see, I
University of
haven't,
Baltimore
well, when it was supposed to
is
first,
by the train station.
my daughter passed.
And then what area do you plan
Yes,
to
11.
focus on?
Leon
I
retired?
want to do real
What
estate,
did, was it when you were in
and
school?
I noticed
Money
Or
man.
after you left the school?
Money man, yeah.
well,
No,
not
I
necessarily,
haven't.
because I noticed
I
what you do
retired
with the
in
501(c)(3)s, and
I haven't
in light
seen
of
her
recent
in
events,
years.
I think that is extremely important,
Nice.
and that
So Heidi,
Where your face
for,
was to me, but I don't know. What do you
spaces
do in the school system?
to allow people to reach their full potential in the city.
I'm sorry,
Because I don't think that's
I said suffer, but actually,
what we
I
have now.
do whatever I'm called on
That's,
to do.
that's
I've been
also
doing
the
for
reason I
almost
want to
20
do
years,
it,
and
because there's work
I love
that
working
needs to
with
get done.
kids. They-
Well, good for you, man.
I
Good
was out
for you.
for
It's
when
dire
I was
need.
16 and I came back to
Dire
the
need,
whole world.
yeah.
Miss Connie,
And in fact,
can I disturb y'all for a second?
Sure.
yeah, go ahead.
I have the honor and the pleasure of reading for Reverend Dr. Kwame Abayomi. He has two resolutions here, one of which is from the City Council of Baltimore, and one of which is from the City of Baltimore, Certificate of Recognition. On behalf of the citizens of Baltimore, I'm pleased to present this certificate to Reverend Dr. Kwame Abayomi in recognition of the publication of your new book, A Voice in the Wilderness, Sermons and Homilies for Urban Ministry. Yay! I commend you for this collection of 18 sermons from your tenure as senior minister of Baltimore's Unity United Methodist Church. As mayor and personally, I have signed and issued the certificate in appreciation of your efforts as a religious leader and public servant in our community. Presented this 16th day of May, 2015, your Honorable Mayor Stephanie. Congratulations, congratulations. May I see that your church?
For those who politically astute, I confess I did not request one from the mayor. I assumed I would never get it, but she was gracious enough to. We were always on opposite ends of the political spectrum when I was in City Hall, so I was surprised to receive it, and yeah, thank her muchly. Yeah. Thank you, Shirley. Everyone know my partner, Dr. Shirley Mary Childers?
No.
Okay.
Yay!
Dr. Mary.
If she looks familiar, it's because she is the sign interpreter for Sweet Honey in the Rock.
It's a singing group, it's an
Yeah.
a cappella women singing group.
Yeah,
Everybody
they're
knows Sweet
fantastic
Honey.
too.
Yes, thank you,
So,
thank you.
but thank you all for coming, and good to see you too, Raquel.
I could not show up.
I'm
sorry I'm late, but I had to make
Oh no, it's
It just started.
This is
It just started up.
like this is the largest it's been.
How you doing? She's out when she was in the bathroom. Sorry.
Thank you, that's all right, thank
Okay.
you.
I'm sure Stan's brown.
I had my kids
She didn't say anything. I mean, if somebody
Wow.
called me
African Methodist church.
Special,
it
special.
takes a while for me
You
to
know
come back
everyone
this
here?
way.
No, I don't.
2012.
Yeah.
Miss Heidi.
This-
Hello.
How are you?
I'm sorry.
familiar. I was about to
Let's do
say.
that. Let's do that. Can we just go around and introduce ourselves that way? Because this
Because I had this one in 2013.
a couple of folk who don't know other folk.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Gene, would you
I'm
start?
Gene, and Eugene, and I live in Pigtown.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm a videographer and a documentarian, and I've known Kwame probably for well over a decade, 15 years probably.
Wow.
And Dean's also working on low-powered FM development
Yes.
in Baltimore City.
A community-oriented,
Yeah.
local,
Fantastic.
low power.
And Raquel.
My name is Raquel. I'm a mother of 5. I'm also a
5.
I'm a massage therapist.
All right, mother.
I need your
Five.
I need your call.
You got a card? I don't, but I'll write my name and number down for you.
Okay.
Definitely.
Massage therapist.
For
real.
You can write on my arm.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, here I am upstairs.
Introducing yourself.
Tell her I didn't know where you were. I was like,
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
I'm next. My name is Shanita Reynolds. I know you because you married my son. And it was a real impromptu kind of wedding, but it was so beautiful, and I mean, it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I'm a retired Baltimore City school teacher.
Oh.
And I just met her. She taught at the school where I was at, and I haven't seen her. I was at from Northeast Middle, Dunbar Middle.
Oh, I
and
used to teach at Thomas G. Hayes Elementary when I
that's
first
where I know you from.
See that?
Thomas G. Hayes.
The
Yeah.
connection continues.
Right. It's a reunion.
And for those who may not know, her son is Brother Jabari. How do you say that?
That's her.
Natura.
Oh, the one that has a church on the corner of North Avenue?
No, he has the shop. Used to be on
Oh, okay.
on
Right.
25th Street, but it's on St. Paul now.
Right. He brings conscious black speakers to Baltimore.
Yeah.
As
Oh,
part
wow.
of something he
That's
does.
awesome.
Right.
Just brought Dick Ready last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In fact, they're doing something at Everlasting Life, aren't they? Isn't there an event that
They were doing something because of the kale chips. They do kale chips.
Right.
They have a group of children that sing called Watotos from now. Are you familiar with them? Watotos?
Oh, I know them. Oh, yeah, I know.
One of the festivals. I don't know where I was.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
You think when Peggy Jackson was it?
Yes.
That's why I know you.
And
My name is Charles. Chuck is my good friend, Dr. Abayomi called me. I've had the pleasure of knowing this gentleman since I was 21 years old, where we crossed paths through a program that brought me to UNT United Methodist Church to be a part of a program.
this is Betty's nephew.
Betty's.
Reunion.
And I've been blessed tremendously through the acquaintanceship, the friendship, and the wonderful advice and conversation I've had with him, and it was a blessing and honor to be here to be a part of this. Yeah. I know it's going to be wonderful.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
Tolu, and
Tolu.
yes, it's Alicia Tolu, so there's Tolu. And I'm the South Island nephew. Oh, okay. Well, I do prison ministry.
Wow.
I advocate for prison serving life sentences with the possibility of parole. And Dr. Abayomi came to Annapolis and spoke on our behalf and stayed as long as he could. And we continued in the work, allowed us to use the church and to hold meetings and events, and he's really been a blessing. Because now we have like 85, it might be 90 men now at one moment that went home through court case called Hunger Case.
Yes, yes.
And August the 22nd at Curl Park, we have our annual picnic. And so you can come and see some of the people from the whole penitentiary if you're in.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yes.
I was at a couple of hearings couple of years ago. One for Kareem and for Eddie. No, I didn't get to the one for Eddie, but they scheduled it, yeah.
Okay.
But wonderful, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And she's from Unity. Good.
Okay.
Kathleen Curry, a lifelong member of Unity United Methodist Church, and I met
Wow.
Dr. Abayomi when he was Dr. Henry. Name sermon in Africa we went to, and
That's right.
we've been together a long time. Eulogized my daughter, which has been a book. Couldn't get to my brother, but he was there. Spirit in all of our trials. Yes.
Her
Oh.
brother, by the way, is Michael Carter. Many of you may remember him too.
From Baltimore City.
Yeah, his last position was in Baltimore City Public Schools.
I know that name.
Liaison, he liaison with the children's advocacy, I forget his name.
Oh, okay. I know that, I probably know.
Sister Heidi.
Right, thank you. I'm Heidi Rodriguez. I met Dr. Abayomi as Dr. Norman Handy, actually Councilman Handy, when I handled Hispanic Affairs for Coach Mook many moons ago. And when I became Executive Director of a Community Services Center, I had an interdenominational blessing, and I was blessed to, and honored to have Dr. Abayomi as part of that blessing. And I just always loved his support and his openness to diverse cultures and people, and I'm truly honored to see you after. It's been so long. I'm just honored and tickled to see you.
It have been. And your brother?
Yeah, my name is Paul Rodriguez. My sister is Heidi. She thankfully brought me here, and I'm very glad to be here today. I'm going to be a third-year law student at the University of Baltimore. And really inspired to see the work that Dr. Abayomi's done, and hopefully I can follow in some of those footsteps one day. So.
Because he said he was, my father asked him what he was interested in. He said he wanted to focus on real estate. And I said, oh, you want to get rich? And he said, oh no. He says, I got another trick up my sleeve. You were talking about the need for the space as opposed to the profit, looking at the whole nonprofit area as a way of developing housing and space for people involved.
I think especially in Baltimore City, there's a lot of potential in this city because of the people, but it has to get tapped. That's it. That's what, it's as simple as that, I think.
Right,
you know,
right.
But it gets complicated along the way sometimes.
True. Thanks a lot. And I too thank all of you for coming. I'm sorry to say, we've been through the elaborate process of printing programs and everything, and I left them right in the living room of the house as I walked out the door. But I guess, let me just do this. Can I just read something from the book? Sister Kathleen mentioned that the only eulogy in the book is the one for her daughter, Tinsina. And there were a variety of messages, types of messages and audiences that these sermons were addressed to. But the majority of them were spoken, preached at Unity United Methodist Church, with the exception of a couple that we call homilies. A homily, is a short message and doesn't necessarily have to mention God or be religious in content. But on page 100, there is one such homily. It's called All That Jazz. And I particularly like this message because it's non-religious in terms of, it's not a message to invite you to become a part of the church or to believe in Christ necessarily. But it's about the relationship between John Coltrane and jazz and Jesus Christ and religion. It was preached at St. James Episcopal Church on February 6, 2000. Father Michael Curry was the rector there. And the musical guests were two of my favorite jazz artists, Houston Persons and Etta Jones. So here's the homily. In his book, The Luminous Darkness, Dr. Howard Thurman, that great black spiritualist, describes the route a deep-sea diver takes as being, quote, a passage through the belt of fishes, end quote. This is a wide band of light under the water which emanates from the light above the water. From there, Thurman says, quote, he moves to a depth of water that cannot be penetrated by surface light. It is dark, foreboding, and eerie. The diver's immediate reaction is usually one of sudden fear and sometimes even panic. That soon passes, for as he descends deeper and deeper into the abyss, his eyes slowly pick up the luminous quality of the darkness, and he descends to his destined depth with confidence, using peculiar vision only the darkness provides. In like manner, when one begins to plumb the depths of jazz, the only true American art form, one must move beyond the surface of this genre of music and broach its deep, dark depths with no more light than God provides anyone who searches the mysteries of life. And like the deep-sea diver looking for buried treasure, the one who searches for the meaning and the message in jazz must dare go where none else but the Spirit can go. For like God and creation, jazz is a spiritual experience, and what we say God is to religion, jazz is to music. Take a journey with me through the hallowed names of this mind-boggling entity we call jazz. I begin with none other than the inimitable John Coltrane and the beautiful and melodious renditions he recorded of the Broadway tunes and the sumptuous ballads he delivered on songs like After the Rain or Aisha. Of course, the sweet sounds of Nancy Wilson or the stylish scats of the woman Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra called the greatest Ella Fitzgerald. Among the hallowed halls of this legacy we find persons like Nina Simone with her super sultry self, or Eric Dolphy, who composed so many original tunes as an expatriate from America.
How y'all doing?
Then there's Miles, yes, miles and more miles of miles. And those Blue Note boys who accompanied him, Red Garland, Tony Williams, and others. The likes of Quentin Warren, Jimmy Smith, King Pleasure, James Moody, Thelonious Monk, Grant Green, Sassy Sarah Vaughan, and the vocalizations of Queen Dinah Washington. Nobody did it better than Baltimore's own Billie Lady Day Holiday. And nobody calypsoed us more than Stan Getz with Girl from Ipanema. I recently heard Charles Lloyd on a reissue of, quote, Memphis Dudes Again that knocked my socks off. And let me hear them mention the legacy of my own family tree, the Handies, back when my name was, from W.C. to John, which populate the halls and walls of our minds and our memories. There are classic songs like Moody's Mood for Love or St. James Infirmary, no pun intended, Father Curry, songs recorded and released by the likes of Emosos Leontopoulos Thomas to Bobby Blue Bland. There are the syncopating riffs of big bands like Fletcher Henderson, Chick Webb, and Cab Calloway, contrasted to the acoustic trios of a balladeer like Nat King Cole or the smooth sounds of Jimmy McGriff. Who didn't or doesn't have a copy of Dakota Staton, not Station, mind you, singing It Started at the Late Show in their collection? Who doesn't recognize in groups like Take Six the origins of close harmony and scat-like swing, born in the music of Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross? No discussion of jazz would be right without hearing the name Louis Satchmo Armstrong in the verbiage. No library is considered complete without a copy of Don't Go to Strangers by our guest musicologists Etta Jones and Houston Person. But let me go beyond simply categorizing its styles and cataloging and chronicling its contributors. As every schoolboy or girl knows, jazz is much deeper. So let me get beyond name-calling, or what Howard Thurman described as the level where surface light shines on our inquiry, and plumb the deeper depths of jazz. Jazz is worship. It is a prayer from the soul of a people who have longed to be free in substance and style. Just as the Psalms are Israel's songbook, so the music of jazz is the effort by Americans of African descent to tell their story and sing their song in a strange land. It is our God-given talent, rehearsed and resourced through the dark nights of the soul, where the whip of slavery was heard, and the suffering and the rape and torture and the mutilation of our people by slave owners and slave traders was felt. That's what jazz is. Jazz is the felt and focused fusion of the fact that our families and our folkways were stripped and separated from us, and the sad and criminal reality that we were led along a pathway of pain and pathos until we arrived at a place for which James Weldon Johnson said, our fathers only sighed. Jazz music is our expression of the cruel and callous reality that even after freedom was gained, that same pain and pathos was indelibly stamped in the DNA and genes which comprise and confound who we are. Jazz is the strange fruit immortalized by Billie Lady Day Holiday. This fruit grew from the waves of lynching, murder, and oppression started by some hooded cowards known as the Ku Klux Klan on Lookout Mountain, Tennessee in 1895. This fruit continues to grow from the current wave of terrorism and violence being perpetrated by contemporary cowards against black churches in the South today. Jazz is the musical paraclete, that holy sound which accompanied the rise and revival of the artistic and intellectual genius of the likes of James Baldwin and Langston Hughes and Gene Toomer and Paul Laurence Dunbar and County Cullen and Zora Neale Hurston, that group of Harlem, New York ace buddies who put words to the feelings of our people during the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s. Jazz is the rhythms, polyrhythms and cross rhythms, the recurring lines and fixed refrains, the spontaneous creations and improvisations, the syncopation and the beat, the antiphonal and the pentatonic sounds of the history of our people. This sound was pushed out with all the heart, mind, soul, and strength those artists could muster until that strange sound that no one could define, delineate, or denigrate was heard from the fingers, lips, and vocal cords of a people who had something to say about life and about living. Somebody said the music goes round and round and it comes out here. We call that jazz. Yes, this is our story. This is our song. It is just another way of praising our God all the day long. Yes, jazz is our people's way of praising God in days when hope unborn had died, in days when we stood on mountains so bright, in days when we walked through the darkest of nights, where it seemed it was always 3 o'clock in the morning, and the sun was never going to shine in our back door again. Through days when we worked from can't see to can see, through days when we had to sing, sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home. Through days when we marched for what we only felt in our hearts and only heard in our hearing, that strange sound of freedom. Yes, jazz is music which documents the reality there's something inside of us so strong. Dogs couldn't bite out, water hoses couldn't wash out, Bull Connors and Lester Maddox couldn't beat out, cattle prods couldn't shock out, and Jim Crow laws, black codes, and separate but equal couldn't legislate out. I hope you're still with me on this flight of consecrated imagination. Jazz is the call and response from the depths of a people who, because they are kissed by the sun, suffered the most brutal and dehumanizing form of slavery for over 247 years, saying with every fiber and ounce of being they could muster, look what the Lord has done in us, through us, and in some cases in spite of us. He took our blues notes, our field hollers, our chain gang chants, our juke joint jumping, and our slave utterances. He even took our spirituals, our songs of faith, and the metered music of Isaac Watts, and those Euro-American hymns we put a beat to. He took the music of Wesley and Sankey, and the gospel music of hard times, and cross-filtered it with the secular sound of classical notation and swing rhythms, and gave us these marvelous, matchless, mysterious, but masterful machinations you and I know as jazz. Don't think for one moment Christ was engaging in mere Aramaic chit-chat when he said, greater things than these shall ye do. Jazz is our witness to God of the truth of these words. If by chance there is somebody under the sound of my voice who says in their heart of hearts, yeah, Harlem Park preacher, but Can't understand those strange improvisational sounds and thrombotic dives into the depths of my psyche as found in some of the music and musings of folk like Sun Ra or Archie Shepp or Pharaoh Saunders or Alice Coltrane's Journey into Satchidananda or Rashan Roland Kirk's Bright Moments or the nonsense notations called scat of an Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan. Is there anyone who feels that way? If so, take a look at our history. When brought here as slaves, the plantation owners separated us according to our languages and dialects to prevent us from being able to communicate one with another. So they thought. But we communicated in the moans, the chants, and the nonsense language of trying to get the message of hope and help to one another. Though they stamped out our lyrics, we improvised and stylized the language of our enslavers to fit our needs. The same thing is happening in jazz today. We're still improvising. We're still taking what the world gives us and making it suit and serve the pathos and ethos of our ethnicity and culture. Through this idiom and genre of music we call jazz, we're still turning our stumbling blocks into stepping stones, still turning our dark nights into bright sunrises, still trying to make 100 because 99.5 just won't do. Jazz is our performance and our perspective of protest and praise that we believe there's a God somewhere who has heard our cry and pitied every groan. Jazz music is our attempt to tell the world we've come too far, bled too much, prayed too hard, died too soon, been fired too fast, been denied for too long, and been loved too little, and we ain't gonna let nobody and nothing stop us from reaching our goal. And if you cannot hear it in the lyrics of the vocalist, just listen to the melody, the mystery, and the mastery of the music and of the instruments by the musician. Because what we think of our God, what we think of ourselves, and what we think of our fellow human beings is in there shining in all that jazz.
That's beautiful.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And again, the program that we left home included a time when we could just have a discussion. If you had any questions about, hey, please, okay.
I made it. You know I wasn't gonna miss it.
Yeah, good to see you all too. If you had any questions and any Q&A, so to speak, about the book or about the writing of it, you know, we can do that now. I'll start it off by saying it took me about 3 years to